Welcome to Beyond the Break, a podcast where we dive deep into the stories behind today's entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers, and we uncover what it takes to build something that lasts. Let's get started. Beyond the Break.
Marcy, you ready here?
I am.
All right. Well, welcome to Beyond the Break. And I'm really looking forward to today's interview with you. You've got such a diverse background and such a great story of reinventing yourself, and the way you help others is phenomenal. So I just want to welcome you to the studio. And I want to first dig into something that's amazing is I believe, let's start, your whole career started as a babysitter, correct?
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Are you starting there?
We're starting there.
Okay.
Yes. I wanted to surprise
I have babysat.
Okay. Any clients that we know? Anything interesting?
Yeah. I mean, she was born in 1989. That's your first little Easter egg.
In 1989. And what type of profession was she?
She's a singer.
Singer. All right. So did you teach this person how to sing?
I taught her everything I knew.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
No, Taylor Swift. Yeah. She was a family best friend. And
wow.
I was in high school. So I just want to be clear. She was, I graduated high school in 90. But yeah, so we knew the Swift family for...
That's phenomenal. So you were the babysitter, possibly one of the most famous people in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's a great start. And I think whatever you did there shaped her life wonderfully.
Yeah. So, she writes me lots of thank you notes. It's touching.
Oh,
good.
Well, you did get to see her recently, though, right?
I did. We flew around Portugal. I actually did not know Taylor well, but her dad and I still stay in touch. And
good.
He was, friends of the family, Merrill Lynch broker. He was our financial advisor.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Huh? That's neat. Well, so you go from that. Now let's go forward your career. So you did a great job as a babysitter. Then you decide to attend college, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So what set you on your career path, to end up with your first job?
Yeah. So my first career was in recruiting. And I joined this company, Tech Systems, and it was pretty small when we started in 94. And I found the company because my best friend and roommate from college met the owner, and I had graduated from college. I always intended to be in news media. It was my major and my goal when I was a little kid and everything. And I started that right out of college. I started there for a minute.
Okay.
And all I knew is my best friend joined this company, Tech Systems, and she was having so much fun, and she loved the people she was working with. And I was looking what I was doing, and I wasn't having as much fun. It seemed a little sterile for me. So I called her. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but are they hiring in DC? Yeah. And I got the job, and I stayed with them for 22 years.
22 years. So what was your role at Tech? Because you mentioned a recruiter, but I know there's a few, specific elements to that.
Yeah. So because it was fast paced, I started in the recruiting role, then got promoted into the sales role where you call on clients, but it was growing so fast. When we first started, we had to sign it was a 3 W's contract, the whatever, wherever, whenever.
Okay.
And you started that right away. And so I was on this path of doing whatever the company needed. So I did do a lot of different roles. Flew to, I don't know, we probably were in 6-9 different cities and flew all over the place for different promotions to help it grow. But my final role there was I was vice president running large sales teams. And after doing that for about 5 years, I ended up running their strategy and marketing.
Oh, wow.
So I did a few different roles with them. And
I think I remember you mentioning in the past, you guys had certain psychological profiles, you did a lot of training within, right? So anything that you took away from that you found very helpful?
Yeah. So one thing I love, so companies that succeed over time, they usually have a really, very strong core values or very good mission statement, and theirs was strive for excellence through serving others.
Oh, I love that. Really?
Yeah. And so a lot of when we interviewed people to get promoted, the first question we would ask was, who, because of you, a person is better off because you were a part of their legacy.
Wow.
So by saying that, it was a sales-based company. So we really, we had the scoreboard. So you always tried to be number one on the leaderboard.
Okay.
But that got you in the interview room to get considered for a promotion. So you had to have credibility and results. But that first interview question, you literally had to name 2 or 3 people that were successful because you mentored them or you taught them. And I just think that to me...
Internally or
internally?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were kind of internally focused, but I'm sure now it's probably externally too. But at the time, you had to name people and you would be able to say, Joe started this office and I was the one that recruited them, hired them, trained them, and now he's a very successful leader. And that's why he's a part of my legacy. But you had to name people that were part of your legacy. And what I liked about that is it almost gives you that altruistic motivation, that it wasn't just about your number, your team's number. That was a component, but just serving others. So striving for excellence through serving others. And that selflessness made you want to, help other people succeed. And they just created a culture around that.
Well, you think of that as so many sales cultures can be the opposite. They can be toxic. Mm-hmm. Like, I want my number to be the best.
Yeah.
And here you're talking about you still want your number to be at the top ranked, but you're trying to pull others up with you.
Yeah.
And that's so different and unique. And people talk about culture, but you got to do something to make the culture what you want. So you guys, it sounds like, had a very clear statement. You're still remembering it today because you don't work there anymore, but it's been ingrained in you. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And what about the training? Because you mentioned then you got into a management role with the teams. What was your job or responsibility?
So they did they were one of the best in class with training, and sometimes it was outsourced. Sometimes we had to be the leaders of doing it. So there was a lot of different ones that we did. My personal opinion about how they led through culture, they had a chief learning officer, which was newer in the scheme of things. Say the late 90s, having a full-time person on their staff that was their chief learning officer. And he would do a lot of psychological we had to do tests with him. We did a lot of personality assessments, but he had one, and then we'd do a full down breakdown of each leader would go through like a power of teams workshop with him. So you start to learn your own people that are very self-aware and they know their story and they understand their why and they can articulate it in a way that other people understand their why. It creates a leadership confidence that is authentic.
Oh, okay.
But then personal, so then other people understand, what makes you who you are and your purpose. So he spent a lot of time investing in the top leaders on how to do that. And that's something that I'll always remember because people, they are successful because of leaders. And usually people don't quit companies, they quit leaders. So if you're not there that's intentionally, loving on your teams and making them be successful. So that to me, Dr. Courier was his name, and he was really critical. We actually did some fun things too. Like he would have all the families, the husbands and spouses. Well, I was the only female vice president, but so we would have my husband, Chris, and then all the other wives would come in, but we'd do team meetings with our spouses too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so different than I've ever heard. And how often would you meet or check in with your team as a manager?
Oh yeah. We were hands-on.
Oh, really?
I mean, I think the late 90s, it wasn't called micromanagement then, but we certainly were, we called ourselves the trust and verify.
Oh, right.
But we were in everyone's business all the time.
Yeah.
But
it sounds like positive.
Oh, yeah.
Not just like you got to hit these number of calls and whatnot. There was more to it, right?
We were kind of intense too.
Okay.
Yeah. We did grow up, I will say, like one of my... one thing I was always proud of is Jack Welch. When I was growing up as a leader, in the late 90s, Jack Welch had a lot of great books and philosophies. And his was always, you have to promote the top of your team. 20%, you're working on how to get them promoted.
Okay.
Bottom 10% annually, you're getting rid of. So when I was running like as a vice president, one of my first larger roles. So the team itself is like, 300 million was the revenue, and I had 19 direct reports. So you kind of do the math there. Every year I was demoting 2 people, trying to promote 4. So if you're promoting 4, you got to backfill those slots. So just leadership movement was something that I really believed in, and that was the work I had to commit to with our team. So it wasn't all unicorns and and fun. We definitely had to have some tough conversations and demote a lot of people or tell people why they weren't on the leadership track.
Yeah, I mean, you guys created a hard work culture. I know, a friend of mine works there and still does, and I used to try and just have lunch with him, and he not only wasn't available for lunch, but he would have 2 lunches with prospects or clients, right? I mean, that was, you guys are a go culture, and I love that work ethic.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, you hired the right people and you trained them, and hopefully they felt the rewards of it as well. So now you're no longer working there. So what happened in your life, going forward? I know you're a mom of 3 kids and all. Like, how did you balance that, and when did you have to, make changes?
Well, it's an interesting story because I was, I said my best friend, my roommate from college, she was in the Philadelphia office and was the only female of 50. And then I was in the Virginia office, the DC office, and I was the only female of 50.
Man.
And so when we got promoted, the first to get promoted, we were always like the first in leadership. And then she ended up staying home with their kids immediately after her first maternity leave. That was kind of my plan.
Okay.
I always thought that was my plan. And for me, when I was 30, I got promoted to the vice president role as the first and only female vice president. And at the time, it just made sense. It wasn't that like, how is this company not promoting women in leadership? We were all growing up together and it was a great culture. I just kind of logically, I was one of the first to get hired. So it just made sense tenure-wise. Then for me, when I had my first maternity leave with the intention of staying home with the kids, I just underestimated how much I loved my job, my career. And I felt this purpose, like the strive for excellence through serving others.
Yeah.
There was something that I just loved the work that I was doing. And my husband, Chris, he was so great with kind of like, well, you never tried being a working mom. So just because you've been saying it for 20 years that you didn't want to be a working mom, why don't you give it a shot and then you can leave? And so I did. And what was awesome, like fortunate for me, is even on the tough days when I was having those break moments where I was really struggling or not feeling, just when you're really stressed.
Yeah.
I could come home and we could look at each other like, well, is today the day you quit? Because I was always on borrowed time. I wasn't supposed to be working. So it's the day that you quit. And I would just have perspective. I'd be able to say, no, I just need to confront this guy. Like, I need to tell him what's going on. So for me, I stayed as that first and only female vice president through my first maternity leave, my second maternity leave, and my third maternity leave.
Wow.
So after a while, the burden of that title, at first it was a privilege. And then there was this honor trying to help other women, serve through excellence, through serving others. But eventually it did become kind of an emotional weight. And I can say hindsight 2020, you get perspective. I had some limiting thoughts around that space, like instead of like, hey, let's figure this out, I started getting angry. Like, why am I still the first and only? Like this time, this is getting lonely, with this executive team. But I did end up leaving after 22 years. And I think Katie was probably 14. That's older. But it wasn't but a few moments having a break from that corporate grind that I could reflect back on this awesome career I had and feel like, oh, there were some limiting thoughts. Like there was nothing in my way but my own limiting thoughts.
Okay.
And with that, that's when I realized I loved staying home, but I loved having both. And I in 2018, we launched the company REVEL. Like many founders, you can become an entrepreneur because you have experience and you have a certain demographic you care about. And I'm like, if I could just teach mindset or mindfulness to some of these women like myself, that are doing great things in their career, doing great things for their family. They have a commitment to health. And sometimes you feel like it's just not possible. And so I recognized that with my break of staying home with the kids, I was like, oh no, it totally is possible. Like you just have to have the mindset to figure out how you want to do you more often. So
you started it to try and solve for the same challenges that you had, right? Basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember, through iterations, you focused on women first, right? That was originally. But I know I've hired your services for my firms over the years. So you're not just working with women. So how has it evolved, your business?
Great question. So first, REVEL, we say we're in the business of leadership. Mm-hmm. And to me, what I love about the women in leadership journey is you can do it in a unique way. And we have different like God-given strengths and nurturing and things like that, that the old way, of how leaders used to look, it was pretty uniform. It was pretty much, it had a male dominant structure. And so with me, I saw starting Revel, focusing with women in leadership, really around how to navigate maternity leaves and come back stronger, because you had to delegate, because you had to do all these things to literally be home for 3 months without your work. So I started there, but most of my people that have worked for me when I was at Tech Systems, they all have their own companies and they're all men. And so many times, most of my clients, it started with the, hey, I need some help here. And it was referral-based growth. And while I happen to be a female in leadership, my Revel practice, it's really around the work I love doing, helping build cultures, helping hiring the right people and succession planning and all that stuff. So that's kind of the work I did at Tech Systems.
Oh, okay. So tap into your experience overall. Now, just a sidebar is, I know you've also, you mentioned health earlier, and we talked about different ways that you manage your health. What are some of the tools that you use to get through the day or get through the week?
Well, I'm very into mindfulness and meditation. I feel like I can't be a teacher of it without practicing it myself. So I will say that's a huge one. And most times in my leadership work I do with people, it's helping leaders break down any sort of mental barriers of what they perceive as limitations. So I try to teach a lot of that.
So do you encourage them to use meditation as well?
Definitely.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. I like to talk.
Okay.
And, I like to be surrounded by incoming information. So it sounds like meditation's the exact opposite of that. Right.
So, yeah. Well, I hear you. Me too.
So how does one get into meditation? Chris Bachlet was on our podcast as well, and he believes and does and practices it. And I think it really helped him get through his brain injury quite a bit as well. So what's the best way for someone to learn about meditation and start the journey?
Yeah. Well, with my demographic, I often work with that time-starved working mom who has a lot on her plate and has more than 1,000 thoughts going through her mind at 1 second. Like the busy mind seems to be a common place for my clients. And I also often am that person. They say meditation is a practice. So I really like to break it down with a few things. So the first thing I try to do is make sure they're clear that you can't do it wrong. The only thing you can do wrong with meditation is saying you're doing it wrong. Okay. That's literally the only thing. So how mindfulness works for people at different times, at different spaces in their life and things like that. There are different techniques all the time. So I want to make sure I get really clear that the meditation is allowing you to quiet your brain so you can allow your body to flow. Like you can allow energy to flow and you allow that to flow. And so it's trying to crowd out any sort of negative vibration you may have, like a negative self-talk or anything like that. So by having judgment on your meditation practice, that is the opposite. Yeah. So you're going to clear the deck of that. Clear the deck of that. And then the second thing I clear out is the quote that I think you were trying to say is, I can't quiet my mind. Yeah. I can't meditate. I just have a busy mind. And so that's, once I get people, don't have judgment. And then the second part is trying to help them reframe that. So it is a practice. And if you understand, you can practice a pure thought and you can repeat and focus on that one thought, which people think they can't. I'll just say, well, how long have you been practicing? I have too busy of a mind. I can't quiet. I can't meditate. Yeah. And most of my clients are like, all the time. Yes. Like I always say that. Yeah. So you have to recognize it's a practice of a thought. And if you're choosing that thought, it's the opposite of what you're trying to do. Yeah. So to basically, I do a lot of personality assessments in my practice. So not everybody's the same, but because I know your personality assessment, but in the high I world, the enthusiast that you may be, I try to get them really enthusiastic about how their brain works. So having appreciation for the busy mind is the first step I try to do. Like that is what serves you. Sure. And then I try to lean on different practices. Like, again, I'll just go with lacrosse. If you have a player that says, I can't catch with my left, I can't throw with my left. I'm a righty. Yep. Okay. Oh yeah. So you say, well, do wall ball. And it's a practice. And how you get them to be excited about learning, just like your mind is a muscle, how to quiet, how to practice with your left, just takes time. Oh, okay. So speaking about time, what time of day is best for I'm morning. This? Well, I'm I'm a few times. I'm a little bit more into it than the average soul, but definitely every morning, 100%. Definitely every evening, 100%. Okay. And then often during the day. I try to find some time to do it.
And how many minutes is it for a beginner? Let's call it.
For a beginner. Okay, so I like setting the timer.
Okay.
Because now you're not worried about the clock, but it depends on how much time a person has.
Yeah.
So for me, if you could really go there, 12 minutes is a great number. It doesn't have to be time consuming.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different practices. So, I'll teach you one thing because I can just say, so if you study the brain and brain waves, this is the easiest way of explaining it. So anybody that does, like, if they wear like the heart rate monitors or the rings or go to Orange Theory, you know that you can, through breath, get your heart rate down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Wim Hof.
Okay. Huge fan of Wim Hof, especially for kids, especially for competitive kids. But you can get your heart rate lower. That is a form of meditation. So if you're the type of person that likes a goal, you can use that. Okay, and all you have to do is deep breaths to kind of calm. But the way your brain works, there's kind of 4 core tiers, I like to say. Probably if somebody's listening to the podcast right now, you're probably more in the alpha state. A little bit more creative, a little bit more calm. It's where creative thinking goes. And then you have theta, which is meditative state, and then delta, which is when you're sound asleep. So if you think about those levels, all you're trying to do is get out of this fight or flight at beta state when you can. So if you're really stressed or if somebody really makes you angry, you have to deal with them next, definitely don't get on the phone with them or in the meeting without clearing your energy. So by doing that, a quick little practice you can do, sometimes it's journaling, affirmations of why you love your job or why you need to work with this person, or seeing that person for their strength and not for what's the aggravating situation. Little things like that are forms of meditation.
Okay. Yeah, you're channeling your energy positive. You're seeing the solution maybe through that.
Yeah. Okay. When it just gets your, like competitive athletes, they can't train every moment of every day.
Yeah.
They have to have rest days. Your brain has to have rest days. And if you don't allow yourself to do it, it's literally like, I know he's using lacrosse before, but it's like writing with your non-dominant hand. Mm-hmm. And somebody says to you, okay, you need to write a 2-page handwritten letter, and you've got your left hand, your hand in the wrong, your pen in your wrong hand.
Yeah.
So all that meditation does, when you're up here, you can't think clearly. The solutions, everything takes so much longer.
Yes. Yeah.
So the goal is to, calm your mind down, think clearer, and then the complex problems are a little easier to see.
Yeah.
And then you can weed through the noise of the fight to see what is a better solution, like the win-win scenario. And from that lens, then you're calmer and you can introduce, a better solution when you're working with people and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to approach things. Right now we're in the middle of the beginning of a quarter, and there's a lot going on for us in our business. And my team is full tilt working hard, like not taking a break for lunch. And I do think there's something to be gained for, the analogy of sharpening the saw. You've got to take some break, even if it's the 12 minutes middle of the day. Because your brain can just fry out. I've got to get better at that. I'm definitely going to try that. It's funny, when I do yoga, at the end, when you're laying there, typically for 5 minutes, that's where my brain kicks in thinking, all right, when I get back to the office, I got to do this meeting, I got to do that. The rest of the day, I have to do these 8 things. And I'm like, I think I'm not supposed to be thinking.
Definitely not. Yeah. That's like wasting your time.
Yes, Shavasana, which is a fantastic part of the hour-long yoga. Yeah. But I'm going to work hard on this. You definitely.
When a simple thing there, like if you allow yourself to say, and, again, we don't know how this stuff works, like we don't understand like electricity or how you and I could be talking here, but then we could turn on the radio station and then we can call China or all the electricity that goes through us. So I do think the human element has energy.
Definitely.
And that is the bigger signal that we just don't understand it. So we kind of say meditation's woo-woo, but it's been around for centuries.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're in Shavasana, recognizing that is valuable time, that good things, you're going to kind of clear your energy, and you'll get to your to-do list when you're driving home from yoga.
Yes,
there's no doubt your mind will go there. But one practice that's really easy, and at yoga it's easy or anytime, but when you're still, they say where your mind goes, energy flows. And so if you're thinking of good ideas and good intentions, energy goes there, and you have a support system around you that makes that happen.
Sure.
Like good vibes is a true thing. So if you allow yourself, when your mind goes, energy flows, I do like, because I still have the busy mind.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
But to quiet it, just focusing on certain things. A lot of people say focus on the breath so you can see it come in and out, and that's a great one. But I like doing and really challenging myself with where the mind goes, energy flows. So I'll try to move my pulse. So I start with my right foot, and then I just keep breathing in Shavasana, waiting until I feel a pulse in my foot.
Wow.
And then I feel it in my knee, and then it goes up the body, and then it goes down to the other side. But just by focusing on, can my mind relax so much that I can feel where my energy is in my body?
Yeah.
And it's not hard. It sounds hard when I first heard about it, but it's actually pretty easy for beginners to do.
And you think of it, now you're focusing on that. You're no longer thinking of your to-do list.
Yeah, it's a mind-body connection, and that's all you're trying to do. And then if you can get your heart cohesive in there too, that's another great thing. But mind-body connection, if you can do that, that's meditating.
I love that. You just simplified it so much. It's like, when you're working out, they say to envision those muscles working at that moment. That's where you're seeing it, and it's benefiting yourself. So I love that, Marcy. Well, so you're bringing that mindfulness in, you're bringing meditation, and then now back to Revel coaching, your business has evolved quite a bit as well. And by the way, so now you've gone through 22 years of a structured corporate world with levels, with evaluations, with hiring and firing, to now you're an entrepreneur. And how do you get trained to be an entrepreneur? Like I'm an entrepreneur, and I love entrepreneurial spirit. I think that's what makes America better than every other country, and unique in our approach to business is we have this spirit. And we have these crazy people who risk it all and become entrepreneurs. So what's it like, for you from a mindset as well?
Yeah, well, I absolutely love the entrepreneurial journey. And I wish so many people that are executives could have that experience first.
Yeah. Because
you don't realize whoever built the company you're working for had a vision to create these great, service that they're huge and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden you're a cog in their wheel and you have a lot of entitlement. You have a lot of, all these types of things. And the second you're an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, now I realize why, the founders are so much more wealthier than we are, things like that. For us, like most entrepreneurs, you got to have a great vision and purpose and why. And I was really passionate around helping people deal with burnout, helping people prevent burnout, have better perspective of things. So that helped a lot. But the other thing that was really great is just starting with my sister and having the word Revel as a part of our main theme. We definitely prioritized joy over stress. And we tapped into growth mindset was our number one anchor on when we were stressed and something wasn't going well, because I certainly casted, I had my own projections, even though I didn't have a boss, I was trying to be a good boss for myself, and I had blueprints and all this stuff. And the first couple of years as an entrepreneur are so messy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not used to messy. I'm used to very structured and things like that. So I was fortunate because my business partner, sister or best friend knows me the best. She was able to kind of, well, what are you learning from this? She would tap into the growth mindset. Wow. And I'm like, well, I'm learning I should, and I insert whatever it could be. So it wasn't until I started actually treating my business like a company that we started being successful. So when I was a DIY, trying to do it on a shoestring, and I was doing the social media and the website and all those types of things, the things that I really is red energy for me. It wasn't until I started actually investing in the company and hiring people to do their jobs well, so that I could focus on what I do well, that it changed. So that was really the turning point for us, was recognizing we need to run this as a company, not two sisters starting this.
Well, and that's a big moment, right? To realize, because you've got limited resources typically when you're starting something. But like you said, you're not good at everything.
Right.
So, which is funny, because now when I ask you certain things, you're like, actually, I have someone who does that. Yeah. Like even the podcast recording, someone else does that. So you've found you've surrounded yourself or hired the right people to solve for, what did you call it? Red energy. Red energy.
Yeah. Green energy is just like, oh, this is so easy. I love this stuff. Like if somebody gives me an org chart and they say, you need to redesign this org chart and figure out how to make this happen, that's green energy for me. Like complex, whether it's layoffs or succession, I love that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I do love that. But social media and things like that, it's a part of being an entrepreneur. They want to know you have to be seen, things like that. But yeah, I will tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
So we were starting 2018 and, we were getting a client here, a client there. And, we worked a lot with our alma mater, Denison University. So they were a client of ours. We did all the women's sports. We did training for them, helping female college athletes. And so when 2020 happened, this is about the time we were fine. We were doing okay. We weren't at the level that I wanted us to be. And we weren't making enough money for me to justify hiring, $50,000 marketing person. We weren't making enough to spend the amount of money that I thought we needed to. And so I was frustrated. And in 2020, we had Denison hired a bunch of us to do these internship programs. So I had some interns in college. And so I was frustrated. So the first thing I do is I go to the beach to do my meditation.
All right.
And what I like to do is I sit there and I'm doing the meditation and then I try to test the universe and I'll say, okay, show me a sign. So not making enough money or not hitting my financial goals, burning like I'm working like I was 25 years old, right? And
now you have a full family and everything.
Yeah. So anyway, so I do the meditation and then I sit there and like, give me a sign. And I usually have the sign tends to be, either like an email or a song or something like that. So I finish it. I get into my car, I go to my phone and I get an email from my old intern she graduated in 2020. And she says, my job fell through. I'm taking your advice. And the advice from, the sisters was always bet on yourself. Okay. And I'm betting on myself and I'm starting my own social media company. Would you hire us? And I was like, universe, I just said I don't have enough money to pay for this. So I hired Lucy and she's still with us. She's done all of our branding. And I hired her and I was like, you know what? At first I rolled my eyes and then I was like, okay, trust the universe. I'm like, well, my vision statement is I'm the type of person to help women be successful.
Sure.
That's the whole, the whole theme of Revel. And so I emailed her back. I'm like, absolutely, I'll pay you. I think I paid her like $50 a post and I would do 4 posts. 4 total posts, very small. Her first post she picked the most god-awful picture of me in my maternity leave, my maternity bed with Katie, and she posted it. And in my small world, it was the first time I actually got noticed on LinkedIn in terms of, I think we had, say 10,000 views or something in my world that was big. Yeah. In my daughter's world, that was like the first hour.
Yes. Yeah.
But in my world, it was big. And from that post, I got my first corporate client who's still a customer of mine. I got the retainer and it literally put me on the map. So when we say meditation does something, that's a little bit my story. I'm like, Lucy, you were my universal sign. And now she's got this great company. I still do all my branding from her, but I do think
you helped others. Think of that. She helped you. And you helped get her career cooking as well.
That's such a good point.
You think of that. It is beautiful the way that all came together and you didn't give up. And I think that's a wonderful story about how this all can work. Yeah. And it's all positivity though, right? Because you could have easily been like, you know what? This is not working out. This is too hard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going back to big corporate where you excelled. Be a VP somewhere
And that's
else,
where money, the main things that can get you in a place of stress. It tends to be around common themes, finances, relationships, and health. Somewhere in those themes is kind of where it happens. So if you allow any of those themes to have a negative story, so you're thinking about the past, you're thinking of a negative story of why it could go wrong. You're thinking of the future and why it could go wrong and those things. Like you just went bankrupt. So you have a bad financial thing. But if you allow yourself, and this is where meditation can really help quiet that negative self-talk, and you paint a positive future story.
Sure.
That's where good things will happen. So for me, if I didn't keep myself in check with the financial goals, if that was my big driver, I definitely would be back in corporate America working for somebody else.
Yeah.
But because I was trying to be my own student, I always say like my poor kids and, they're like my case studies. I'm going to try this new technique.
Yes.
But I was always applying for myself. And I always felt so fortunate that I didn't let the financial goal be my big why.
Yes.
It's always a result of me
take
serving.
Care of it. Yeah. If you can you're right. If you're somewhere where you're happy, you're doing well,
good things happen.
Then you'll do it even better. And then the finances will take care of itself. And that's what, I believe, I try and give that advice to young people all the time is because people talk about do something you like. Well, if you really back it up a step, you like something that you do well. So you got to first figure out what are your strengths, what are your skills, what are your abilities, and then dive into that. Then you'll do well, and then you'll like it. It's sort of like you said, you like org charts, right? There's a reason why, because you do them well. You've seen hundreds of different organizations.
Companies can thrive with the right org chart.
Nothing beats a good org chart. Dotted lines, diagonals. But it really shows that's why you do well, and then you'll get promoted because you're good at what you do. So I think, the balance also of health and wellness is, I feel like it's just coming to light now. People are realizing that, and it's real. And you got to take a break and walk or do air squats in your office. You got to do something to take care of yourself. Yeah,
because I think, if you just thought, that expression where your mind goes, energy flows, if you allow yourself to feel stuck, and then you stay stuck at your desk trying to solve that problem that you're stuck on, you will stay stuck, or that problem will kind of fester, and whatever your brain did to help create the problem in the first place can't be the brain that solves it. So you've got to just allow yourself to get to a lower or calmer state to then, and those are creative states, like when your brain goes to that alpha state from beta state, it is a creative state. You can think differently about the problem. And that's why when you get up to move around, your oxygen goes through your body differently and things happen. And that is, what's cool about now with meditation, it's scientifically proven, like people are doing, EKGs to watch how, the results from it, and there's health results and things like that. So it's so important.
Oh man, I love that. So now, you've integrated health and wellness in your personal life. What is Revel Coach? Where are you headed now? Where do you want to bring your firm next?
What we are doing, we have two different LLCs, and we'll probably stay that way for legal purposes, but we have a recruiting division and then we have a coaching division. And what we've seen is most of the clients, the buyers are typically the C-suite, and they are any sort of around people planning. We want them, to kind of be under one brand, one Revel. Okay. So if they want to hire if we're doing a succession planning and they have some voids in their org chart, we can recruit and find that right person because
that's perfect.
Yeah, if we have, if we know the culture, you can find the right leader. Yeah. And then we also want them to come to us when they need leadership programs to be developed in-house. So really where it's headed is under one roof. We help clients attract and retain top talent by recruiting and coaching. And so that's where it's headed.
And do you encourage them to use the same managerial structure that you grew up with?
Not really, to be honest. I do love it. I mean, and it works for many, but what I've found is so many companies are so unique. And the one thing that I think I make my work a little bit more difficult, but I feel like I get better results, is I don't know how to not customize. Okay. So certain companies, I am great with understanding their culture and getting them to understand, where they're headed. But based on that, it's going to look different for everyone. Oh, okay.
And I think that's important because you've got different people, different cultures, and different businesses. Right.
So. And the dynamics are different now. Like culture, I love this next generation that's coming in. They follow truth. They really follow leaders who not only say the good things that they want to do, but they actually do the right things. So, and the hybrid workforce is totally different. There's so many different things that are changing. So I can't I don't have one recipe, but we do have a methodology that we lean on that we've trademarked and everything on our approach to doing it.
Well, think of it. You've evolved your whole career and you're continuing to evolve. So, thank you for coming in today, Marcy. We learned so much, I think, about our mindset, about culture, about meditation. I'm going to try it and I'm going to do it. Not even try.
Perfect. I'll hold you to that.
I'm going to practice that and I'll keep you posted. But thanks for coming in and best of luck to you and your firm going forward.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Great to be here.
All right.
Loved it.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Break. If this conversation brought you value, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. We've got more real stories, sharp insights, and powerful turning points coming your way. See you next time.